So as you know, I represent this tribe of what I call inspired entrepreneurs. You know, they're kind of creative, artistic people at heart that are doing something they love in the world. They want to make a difference and they want to earn money out of doing that. And I feel for many people this is a whole new kind of territory, and I think it was for you as well, and it certainly was for me. Most of us are brought up just to have a job and, you know, colour between the lines and don't wander off the conventional career paths, and more of us are wandering off the conventional career paths to follow our own hearts and inner guidance these days. Now, what's your experience of the kind of unique challenges, blocks that people have on the path of turning something they love into a business? Have you noticed particular things?
Yeah, there's quite a few of them. One of the first that I look at from my perspective is, and I operate out of the way of thinking that we have an energy field that's in our body and around our body that has an enormous effect on our lives. And it's very exciting to me that there's more and more scientific research that absolutely validates that. Now, what it means, how it works, people can argue about, but that it exists, and that when we think it affects energy fields of ourselves and other people, and that our energy fields affect what we think and feel, I mean, I would say is proven as anything in science now. So if you step into that idea that we have this energy field that's really affecting us, because energy contains information and programming, it's not just like electricity from your wall socket. It actually, since it's coming from people, it has their thoughts in it. When you actually get trained in energy work, it's very funny sometimes. So that you'll be telling people things, and they'll go, "How could you possibly know that?" And I'll go, "Well, because it's in your energy field. The information's right there." People are very, very highly programmed. We've been programmed since inception.
I've heard you talk about this. I think it's a very important thing for people to understand is that people are programmed, and in a way you say it's the grown-up's job when we're children to program us in a way.
Exactly.
But then our job as adults is to figure out what's true and what's not true for us to live an authentic life. Is that your take?
Yeah, we couldn't get through childhood without the programming. You know, we do need to fit in. We do need to know the rules, and we know how to behave for whatever society you're in. And parents, on an inner level, know that, and so they're not just programming by what they say; they're programming energetically, which is why sometimes people go, "I don't understand how my father had a big influence on me. I never hardly knew him." But they can still understand. I go, "Well, energetically, you did." And there's a principle in energy work that any area of your life where you're stuck, that you've actually put some effort into, whether it's an emotion that you can't handle well, or let's say somebody wants to be an inspired entrepreneur, or they feel stuck, or they find they can only get to a certain level of success. What's stopping you is probably other people's energy in your space. And that's why you can't solve it, because it's not really yours.
And you don't even know that you've inherited it necessarily, do you?
No.
It just becomes a glass ceiling or an invisible block, so you don't even know it's there.
Well, it's even a bit more insidious in that, in the sense that because it's been around a long time, usually, you think it is part of you.
Oh, okay, so you do believe it's part of you. You don't recognise that it's actually inherited.
Yeah. So let's say when you were young, or even in the womb, let's say one of your parents was very anxious. Even infants start healing their parents, partially because they love them, and partially because they know if the giants aren't okay, they're not okay. So children start absorbing the energies of their parents' emotions. And you just think it's part of you. So somebody might go, "I don't know, I've always been anxious. You don't know why. I've always had these fears. I've always felt like I'm not okay."
So you just say that's part of my personality, that's who I am.
Yeah, what else would you think? You know, in earlier times, people might have said, "Oh, it's Satan," or something.
Possessed.
Yeah, exactly. And that, and I would just say, it's not that you're possessed, but you've drawn in these energies, and they're highly affecting you. So where people are stuck, the first thing we look for is are they in touch with their own energy, with their own inner wisdom and spirit? And the answer is pretty much always going to be no. And the good news for people is it's quite easy to start clearing your energy. And once you clear your energy, then the next steps we teach people is how to get in touch with their own inner wisdom and their own spirit, and then how to really integrate that into your daily life. So your life becomes an expression of who you really are. And when that happens, it isn't necessarily all the blocks or problems go away. They at least become a lot less important, and they don't have the same impact. A similar part of this is one of the things that we work on a lot with people is we have them look at their goals and how much of the energy in their goals is really their own. And people are quite shocked often how much of the energy isn't theirs.
So there are things they think they should have or should do.
Right. And so even let's say somebody's got an idea for, they're starting to be an inspired entrepreneur and they've got an idea for it. As soon as you start telling people about it, they start, and they don't, everybody means well, everybody starts energetically putting their opinions in.
Yeah.
So they start telling you what you can do, what you can't do. They put their fears in, they put their dreams in. And again, we all do this. I mean, you know, I do it to people, we all do it. It's part of being human, so it's not like a bad thing. But what happens is pretty soon, your own goal, you can't recognize it. It's like you're a sculptor and people keep putting more clay on your sculpture or painting it and stuff, and you kind of go, oh, somehow that doesn't seem quite like what I was trying to do. Well, once you peel that off, then you can find your own thoughts, and then, and along with that comes an enormous vitality. Because it's very tiring to deal with other people's energy, and a lot of the exhaustion people feel, and I don't mean like if you have an infant and you're up every 2 hours at night, of course you're exhausted. But for a lot of us, at the end of the day, we just feel more exhausted than we think we should be. And it's all the energy bombardment we experience. And if you don't clear your energy, it's exhausting. So that affects entrepreneurs. They don't have the energy.
And I'm a great believer that when you're doing something you love, it's your own energy, your own passion, your own vitality that are some of the biggest elements of your success. Because people just see you shining from within and they're drawn to you. Whatever you're doing, whether you're a cook, a shopkeeper, or a coach, or a speaker, you know, they just see that radiance in you. So part of your work is about helping people kind of clear off what stands in the way of their own kind of radiance, is it?
Absolutely, and I find when I'm really in that clear state, I might go on the tube or be somewhere, and people are just looking at me, and it's not, you know, people look at each other in the tube, but I'll catch people looking at me, and I can tell they don't know why they're looking at me, they just want to look at me, or I get all these smiles and stuff, and it's one way I know my energy's clear, because people respond to the inner you, and they just...
Or you don't even have to say anything.
No, they just, you know, you just look up and people are grinning at you, and they don't know why. It's particularly funny from guys sometimes, because I can kind of see them thinking, why do I want to look at him? It's not like, you know, it's not an attraction, but there's something that they're recognizing.
Wow.
You know.
Okay, so you really walk the talk on that. You're constantly clearing your own energy.
I am constantly clearing my energy.
And is that old stuff that you recognise, or is it stuff that you kind of newly inherit? I'm curious, or do you not see it in those terms?
I do very much. I think there's always new things coming on, particularly if you work with the public. Well, if you're around human beings, there's always new. But I'm a believer in the kind of onion model. There's layers upon layers, and I think as we, you know, we're very complex spiritual beings, and I think part of the reason people get stuck is we're trying to make ourselves too simple. People are enormously complex, and that's not daunting if you let that be okay. And often, let's say you clear a lot of old fears, well then you may discover deeper fears.
Yeah, we're multi-layered in our fears. And, yeah, you clear one thing and there's a whole other issue to bubble up underneath.
And what can happen though at a certain point is that instead of that being a negative thing, I actually get excited, like, oh good, because when I clear that, my life gets better. So I actually enjoy finding old stuff now. And that's what I encourage my students, because when you clear it, all kinds of things get better in your life. And then there'll be the next layer, you know.
Great. No, I share that perspective, and I'm wondering if a lot of people listening to this would share that perspective, that they can get to a place where you go, I know what it feels like to feel clear and good. So when I'm not, I know it's just something to clear, so there'll be a new level of feeling clear and good on the other side of it.
Yeah, I've had a number of people, including my colleague John Friedland, who've been really good at helping me notice all the perfectionistic programming. I mean, even some of these people will say things, and I'm not saying this is a bad thing to say, but they'll go, well, I want this if it's for the highest and best. And my friend John would go, how about if it's just really good?
Does that just want it and enjoy it?
Yeah, exactly. And that when we see ourselves as that we're not supposed to be some static model of perfect, and the fun is the continuing evolution that we enjoyed when we were children, and get back to that state of liking the becoming rather than being at the destination, then it all becomes a lot of fun.
Great. Well, it sounds like your work is just so relevant to the people that I kind of represent and you know, find speakers for, because you know, our personal energy is just, as we said, so crucial. So your work sounds fascinating. It's brilliant.
I feel really, really lucky, because every day there's no danger of learning at all. So every day is just
more to learn every day.
Yeah, more to learn, and it's such a joy to watch people go, oh, I don't have to hold myself back in that way, and go forward, and
they stop shrinking and start blossoming.
And then they contribute to you know, so many other people. So the ripple effects are
beautiful,
phenomenal.
Yeah.